Hey soccer fans, this is Nick reminding you to check out Sports Spider. If you're tired of searching multiple websites for sports news, SportsSpider.com has you covered. They collect the latest articles, videos, and podcasts from around the web and organize them by your favorite teams. If you want to stay as updated as possible on the Chicago Fire or any other team, hit the link in the description to check out SportsSpider.com. Hey soccer fans, this is Nick, your host of the Feed the Fire podcast, and today we are recapping Chicago's 2-1 loss at Inter Miami. We're going to check in on some of Frank Klopas' post-game comments and recap some of the headlines from around the league. There is a big transfer headline that just happened today, Monday the 22nd, that I want to fill you all in about. First, a little housekeeping. You can always find me on social media at GlassHouseSoccer or email me, glasshouseSoccer@gmail.com. And I want to say thank you to the guys over on the Battered Herons podcast. They had me on to preview the Chicago-Miami matchup. We had a great conversation. We talked a lot of great soccer, a lot of great tactics players. But also, they got me to answer some kind of like this or that questions. Backstreet or in sync. Triangle sandwiches or square sandwiches? What's the deal with ketchup not being put on hot dogs? Like, we got into all of it. So make sure you go check out that episode, not only for the soccer talk, which is still relevant even after the match, but also just for all the fun that we had with them. Give them a follow. They're also starting a Battered MLS fans show and channel, so that'll be for everyone out there. And they actually said it in our episode. They're like, Nick, you do seem like a very battered Chicago Fire fan. So I feel like it, especially after this Inter Miami loss, and let's get into it. The Chicago Fire lost 2-1 in Miami, and I'll say it was hard to prep for today's show. Partly because I've been playing with Legos with my kids for the last few days, and it's hard to type show notes when your fingers and fingernails are just shredded from building these tiny little things and breaking apart all these bricks. But mostly because there's really nothing new or nothing worth talking about after this Miami match. So much of what we've been criticizing the Chicago Fire for over the entire season still applies. Lack of offense, defensive mistakes, poor tactics, bad coaching, the subs not making an impact, all those sort of things. But just the fact that there's not even like a semblance of anything to cheer for or to go forward with. There was a couple little things, and I'll mention them as we go through this recap, but it's not like the Chicago Fire tried some new tactic or have some like shiny new player who debuted or anything like that. Yes, Justin Reynolds did get his first MLS start after his loan from Lugano expired, and he played competently, but it's not like he got a start. It's not like he had some amazing one-on-one moments. He had a great cross to Kuipers, and again, we'll mention that, but like there's nothing really to pump us up from an on-the-field product. And the Fire are doing so much as an organization, and there's been a few headlines about that we'll talk about in the second half of the show, but there's really nothing week to week, match to match, on the field with this lineup, with this game plans, that really get us excited. And I think that's where we're all at as Fire fans. And I'm going to put that out there because I'm going to go through this relatively quickly. We're going to hear a lot from John Donovan. He had a lot to say in his segment, and I'll let him do most of the talking. But to get back to this match, goals were scored by Rojas in the 6th minute, Jordi Alba in the 75th minute for Miami, and Chihos in the 73rd minute. So Miami gets a real early 1-0 lead. Chihos levels late, midway through the second half. And again, what does that tell you about your team when your best opportunity and goal comes from your center back making a run into the box? Actually, I think that says it all. I don't need to add any more commentary to that. But then there's a huge blunder and Jordi Alba equalizes in the 75th minute. Now, how did the Fire start this game from a lineup perspective? They ended up switching to a 4-4-2 lineup, trying to clog the middle and prevent Miami from playing through the middle, but sure enough, it was Robert Taylor on the wing that gets the assist. Then Miami is good enough where they can play through the middle, they can play up the wings, and the Fire only had one defensive kind of a setup there, and that was to clog up the middle. That's why you had Acosta and Jimenez starting as your D-mids there, and why Herbers and Gutierrez, at least from a defensive standpoint, were pushed out on the wings. Now, when I saw this, I tweeted it out that Herbers is going to have to play some defense if Gutierrez is going to try to be driving the offense. And if Gutierrez is drifting centrally, then Aragoni, who started as the left back, is going to have a really good defensive game. And I like Aragoni. I think he played okay. I think he does all right. And on the season, I think he's been a good signing. Problem is, he's a very physical player. And usually early on, he tries to assert himself physically, which is great. Which, as a defender, you want to let the opposing team know this is going to be a physical match. If you're going to try and take me one-on-one, if you're going to try to body me, if you're going to try to do anything like this or go up for a 50-50 ball, you better believe you're going to get a shoulder in the back. The problem is, when he puts a shoulder in the back, he always gets called for the foul. The referees in MLS are not letting him play his physical brand of football, and so they peg him as the guy who's going to be committing fouls. And there are 50-50 challenges, then that he gets called for a foul. There are some bad fouls, then he gets called for a yellow card. And part of him getting called for a lot of these fouls leads to persistent infringement kind of fouls and yellow cards for the rest of the team. So he's going to have to dial it back just a little bit, because it has been a troubling trend with him getting called for early fouls, just trying to establish himself as a physical presence in the game. So he's got to adjust. But he starts as your left outside back. Chihos and Olmsberg are your center backs, and Suke is your right back. Suke, who a lot of people are saying, wow, Suke's been playing really well these last few games. I don't think he's been playing very well defensively. He's been pushing forward and contributing to the offense. I think his defense had been about on par with what he'd been all season, and now we're starting to see him slump a little bit again. Also, Chris Brady in net, if you didn't already know that. Chris Brady, who was named to the team of the match day after his Cincinnati match, as well as the top MLS fantasy keeper for the week, the double game week with his play against Cincinnati and Miami here. Got to mention Wyatt Olmsberg goes down with an injury, non-contact injury. Mauricio Pineda comes in for him, has a decent game other than one absolute blunder. Hopefully Olmsberg is okay. It was a non-contact injury. He either twisted his knee on the push-off to jump, or when he landed, it twisted when he came down. I'm hoping it's not an ACL tear. Hoping it's maybe just a minor ligament sprain, and that he can just rehab it for a few weeks and get back into the mix of things, because they are not only very, very thin along the back line, but they're going to miss Olmsberg as kind of that commanding presence back there, who is a very, very smart soccer player, rather than just having to rely on speed and strength, as a lot of center backs do. So he will be missed, absolutely. Olmsberg, Wyatt, speedy recovery. Looking at the midfield from left to right, it was Gutierrez, Jimenez, Acosta, and Herbers getting the start, and your dual strikers, Kuipers and Haile Selassie. We saw Koutsias, Barlow, Mueller, and Pineda all come in as subs. Also Justin Reynolds as well. Reynolds conducted himself pretty well for the short minutes that he had. Pineda, again, a decent match, but for a huge blunder. Brady comes out of the box. I know John Donovan is going to say it looked like Brady was trying to protect himself from running into Pineda. The announcers are saying it looked like Brady was trying to cradle the ball rather than come out and punch it away. I tend to think that's what he was trying to do. Brady, I think, is a much better and a much more fearless keeper than to try to protect himself when going up. Though when he does yell keeper and his center back doesn't move and in fact puts himself more in the way of the play, maybe he was trying to protect himself to a certain extent. But that was the one blunder, and that was a big one. It cost him a goal. Again, we see Barlow and Koutsias come in and not really do much. I don't think the coaching staff is coaching up Koutsias very well. Now, he's not playing well. I'm not trying to give him excuses. He needs to find the back of the net eventually. He is a striker, after all. But I just think they're putting him out there saying, go make something happen, and not really trying to fit him in some sort of tactical adjustment, or maybe something they identified during the course of the game, though that would require the coaching staff to actually perform some in-game scouting. He's just kind of all over the place. I haven't looked, but I would wager, and I'd feel confident that if you look at Koutsias' heat maps, he's all over the field when he's on the match. Chris Mueller, again, comes in. A lot of people are saying, what exactly does Chris Mueller do for this team? And I think that's a legit question at this point. Any benefit of the doubt he has earned is now gone. The other things I will say, Gaston Jimenez, awful match. this may have been one of the worst matches that he has played all season. And I will admit, I was watching him with a critical eye because a lot of people were saying how good he is and how good he plays for the Fire and all these things and how he's extremely talented and don't get too down on him. And many people have said it. Many people are saying, well, these clubs in South America would be wanting to transfer for him, wouldn't want to sign him if he wasn't any good. And my response to that is, well, if he was any good, they'd pay the transfer fee. They're trying to get a bargain on him because of how poor he's playing for the Fire. Let's be honest. They know the Fire are desperate, and the Fire also aren't a very good front office when it comes to transferring players. You can get away with it when it's a great talent like Duran and Gaga, but can't really do it with a guy like Jimenez. Also, you're not really getting a lot of really good players in. You overpaid for Kuipers based on his performance and goals so far. And I said that preseason, that if they're going to go out and get a striker, they're going to have to overpay for him. Now, I think Kuipers can be worth the $12 million. But in this performance particularly, this Miami match, he did not look the part. He had 2 headers within 8 yards. Didn't put either of them on net. One went over, one went wide. And that Justin Reynolds cross would have been a beautiful play to equalize it late, to give Reynolds his first goal contribution in his first start. But Kuipers mistimes the jump, or maybe doesn't expect the ball to be at the height level it was, or maybe he did not expect it to clear through the defender. Maybe his vision was blocked. Whatever the case, you still got to do better. He puts that one back in front of the near post instead of turning it on frame. Gets another, it was either a corner kick or a far cross from the opposite side of the field in the first half. And I think it was a corner, and just kind of hits it on the way down, puts it over the bar. So, again, not a good performance by Kuipers. When you are a striker, you're only getting 3, 4, maybe 5 looks on goal a game. And for him, I don't think he had a shot on goal, maybe 1. But for him to really have those 2 headers, which he has the skill set and has the history of putting on net and putting in net, for him not to do any better, that was tough. That was a tough match for him. So that's enough about the lineups and the players. Looking at the stats here, Chicago ended up with 52.1% possession, 87% passing accuracy, 508 total passes. So again, because the Fire were able to control the passing at such a high percentage, that tells me that they were either knocking the ball around defensively or they were just knocking it around in the attacking third with no real ideas, and that to me matches up the eye test. 14 shots, 6 on goal, so less than last game. 5 block shots by the defense, 4 corners, 11 total crosses, only 1 offsides. They won 7 aerial duels to Miami 6, so not a lot of balls in the air. And you're going to hear Frank Klopas' postgame talk about kind of how he wanted to change up that attacking mentality from playing direct and playing up the wing. The XG, the expected goals, if this is something you're into, 0.9 for the Fire. And these stats are from MLSsoccer.com. So if they had 14 shots and were only expected to score 0.9 goals, that means each of their shots was less than a 10% chance of going in. So extremely poor efficiency, no quality opportunities for the Fire. Brady is credited with 7 saves, whopping 7 saves, 8 clearances, 10 fouls, 1 yellow card. Now, even though the Fire got called for a lot of fouls early, it ended up 10-9. The number of fouls, and Miami ended up with 2 yellow cards to the Fire's 1. So that kind of balanced itself out. I don't think the ref was too terrible this match. Oh, the one other thing that I learned recently, for those of you in the Chicago area, if you go to the BP gas stations that are owned by the Pride stores, that group of gas station ownership, they do discounts for gas based on how many saves Brady's made, and you can get up to like 20 cents off or 25 cents off a gallon depending on how good a performance Brady has. So after a performance like this, you go find either on the Chicago Fire social media pages or something with BP and the Pride stores, because you put in the right code. I think it's 9001 or 9001 when you fill up with gas as the rewards code, and you get a huge discount based on Brady making a lot of saves. So go check that out. That was a perk that I just found out recently. So those are the stats on the Miami game. Let me look if there were any other notes that I did manage to type out here. I think I touched on everything that I wanted to. Let's get into now the post game, and this was something I did early on in the season where I'd play some of the post game and kind of give my unabashed thoughts on it. So let's go ahead and fire up Frank Klopas' post game and give you my reactions to that here.
Thanks, Steve. Thanks, Frank, for the time. Frank, that feels like one you guys should have at least gotten a point from, right?
100%. So it's really frustrating at this moment here because I think that when we were down 1-0, obviously we pushed the game. The second half was a totally different picture than the first half. I thought the first half we weren't as sharp. I think this is the kind of game that, yes, if the moments were there to be direct, we should have gone direct at times. But then this was the game that we needed to hold the ball more and be more patient, and we didn't have that in the first half. We forced the ball a lot of times.
See, I'm going to pause the post-game presser there, and Frank says this was a game where I thought we should have held the ball a lot more. You had just over 50% possession. You had over 500 passes. You had a very high passing completion rate. It's not a matter of holding the ball. They held the ball a lot. Maybe they didn't hold it in attacking areas, but they definitely didn't do anything with it in attacking areas. And I think, especially in talking with the guys on Battered Herons previewing this game, they were worried about the Chicago Fire's counterattacking. When I said, like, if Gutierrez is pushing forward and has Kuipers as an option and Haile Selassie as an option, they were worried about that. But then we saw the 4-4-2, and you saw Frank set up very defensively, and it almost was like his usual, a point on the road is a victory. And when you play for draws, you end up with losses. So I'm going to disagree with Frank on that one. I think they should have come out with a different approach.
We kept playing through the middle, especially when we were in the attacking third and they were in a low block. But then that changed the second half. We fell behind. We pushed the game, and obviously when you push the game, you have to take some risk, which we did. We found the equalizer. There was good energy with the guys that came in. And then
your center back found the equalizer,
like
Frank.
That right after we scored. It's different if you get beat by a guy, getting the ball, hitting a shot upper 90 and stuff. But that one, that really hurts because it's not the first time. It's just we find ways to beat ourselves, and it's really difficult because the energy that we put in, we created chances, and it definitely feels like, again, we're walking away empty-handed, and it hurts the way we give up the goal. No doubt about it.
I don't think they put in good energy there. And by the way, that was Joe Chatz from OnTap Sportsnet with a question.
Hi, Frank. Sorry about the loss. So the team had been playing pretty well with like a three center back formation, but whether it's like a 5-3-2, like whatever you want to call it. Switch to a 4-man back line for this game. Can you walk me through the decision to do that? Was it mirroring what Miami was doing? Was it about?
No, I mean, I think you see defensively where the thing without the ball, we're in a 4-4-2 because we wanted to have an ability with the two strikers to work together and protect the 9 and the 10, picking up the 6. But then once we had the ball, we went to 3-4-2-1, if you saw, because Suquet stays there, and then Ellen pushed up on one side, and Fabi was on the other side. So without the ball, we was defending in a 4-4-2, but with the ball, we built in a 3-4-3 and really try to put two players in the inside channels to the left and to the right of the 6 and push our wingbacks really high up and create opportunities and put them in difficult spots. Who comes into those pockets to pick up the wide players? Is it the fullback? And I think that was a tactical change. We did the same with Cincy.
Yeah. Thanks.
Where's the follow-up? Any follow-up? Yes.
So
no. All right, let me pause it there while Tim Hotz over at Men in Red 97 thinks about his follow-up question. But that is the most tactical discussion that I have heard out of Frank Klopas the entire season. And granted, I haven't listened to every single word of every single post-game or pre-game conference that he's given, but it was very clear that they had a game plan, but they weren't willing to change that game plan. You heard him say it, that they they were playing with a little bit more, I'm paraphrasing now, they were playing with a little more urgency in the second half. They had to push things, especially when they started falling behind, or, you know, when you're down and you're getting into that 75th minute and you're pushing things a little bit. The problem with what Frank is saying, like, in theory, it's great. You're going to defend a 4-4-2. You're going to have your strikers collapse on the 6 so they can't play those balls over the top like we've seen Busquets to Messi or Busquets to Suarez or Messi to Suarez, right? You're going to have your strikers pinch in on that D mid who's going to start the attack. You know, the D mid that everyone wants Gaston Jimenez to be. That isn't. You're going to have your box in the middle. You're going to have your 2 D mids and your 2 center backs clogging that middle up, right? That makes sense. And then you're going to transition into a 3-4-3 or a 3-4-2-1, and you're going to have 2 options for your center backs to play. But the problem is Jimenez was playing like crap. Pineda had to stay back. You couldn't use him. Acosta, it actually looked like, and I was tweeting this out, it actually looked like Acosta, who was chirping with Jimenez throughout this match, was covering Jimenez's position. Yeah, that's it. Acosta was trying to cover for Gaston in places. You saw them overlapping. And by the way, if you go find the some of the advanced metrics, and I try to retweet it out from one of the Twitter accounts, MLS Statistics, MLS News and Statistics, or whatever it's called, they actually have a passing chart. And you look at Miami's chart, and it's beautiful. It's symmetrical, and the players are all spaced out, and it's even distribution around the pitch. And you look at the Fire's passing chart, and all the player dots are right on top of each other. And it's like, if you ever saw these science experiments where they have a spider web of a spider on a normal day, and then they put like LSD or drugs in the spider's water, and then it drinks it, and then it tries to make a web, and it's like this ridiculous, messed up, lines overlapping, and everything is kind of all mixed up and jumbled together. That's what the Chicago Fire's passing lineup looked like. Spider web on LSD. All right, let's get back to Frank Klopas. We got a few more minutes of his postgame.
It seemed like the team really was struggling to create offense in the first half, but then for a while in the second half was really kind of able to control the terms of the game. That was because of the substitutions. Do you attribute that to the substitutions that were made, like the players on the pitch, or was it something that was discussed in the locker room?
For sure.
What do you think the difference was between
For sure, because the first half, Tim, we forced the ball. When you force the ball, I mean, I think we were more patient and making better decisions. You know, when we had the ball, we can't progress on one side. Then you can't just force the ball centrally. We have the numbers. Find our pivots, go back, switch the point of attack. And, you know, we discussed a couple things at halftime, you know, and then obviously the changes came in and brought energy. But it was just decision making, moving the ball quicker, you know, being more patient with the ball. This is what this game needed, to open them up and be more patient and shift them a little bit when the opportunity was not there to be direct. So, you know, when we force the ball and decision making is not great, when we turn the ball in easy ways, then, you know, you're defending, and then once you have the ball, and, you know, it's not so easy to keep it, you know. And I think the first half, that was one of the main reasons why we weren't as sharp. Second half was different. We talked about it, a couple things, but then also the changes we made, you know, I think did help.
See, and I'll disagree with Frank there. I think you should have played more direct, especially when you see that Sergio Busquets has dropped from his defensive mid position into a center back role. I think you should have played direct. I think Kuiper should have been driving at him. I think Salase should have been driving at him. All right, let's continue on.
Thanks for that.
Yeah.
Thank you. We'll go last question back to Joe Chat.
Frank,
By the way, I like Tim Hatza, I like Joe Chats, I like Men in Red 97, On Tap Sportsnet, anyone who's covering the Fire, I am a fan of. I just find it extremely odd that Frank Klopas' post-game conference, it's 2 questions from Chats and 1 from Hatza. Who else is out there? Like, how do I jump into this, man? Like, I gotta find out how I can get some post-game credentials here and start firing off questions. Maybe I'll come up with a little something in Greek that I can work with Klopas here a little bit. But the fact that you're getting the same 2 or 3 people, that's it, asking the questions, that's just another disappointing thing from the Chicago Fire organization, that they're not trying to build media relationships here. Anyway, let's get to Joe's last question.
I'm just curious if you had any update on Wyatt after he had to leave the match.
Oh, I think it's either abdominal groin area that was strained, and
better than a ligament.
Couldn't continue, and that's frustrating because we're close now to getting Tobias back. I think obviously he got hurt way too early, and I think Tobias still needs a little bit more time. We weren't comfortable putting him in with that much time left into the game, and so Mari came in. But it seems like we're close to getting somebody back, and then we have another injury. So that's frustrating, because White's been playing really well.
If I may follow up on a more positive note, you gave Justin his MLS debut tonight. What made him earn that opportunity?
Just training. He's looked good in training. He's worked hard, and in the end of the day,
even though he just came back from Lugano.
I think a main reason also. And look, we had obviously struggling with some injuries, but the way he's been training and the confidence we've gotten from him, we had no problem to throw him in there, and now he just has to build from this, I mean, it's what I tell the younger players. So you have to take it, opportunities that come, but also, I think it's important that you train extremely hard and take advantage of this opportunity, not only here, the moment that you have to be on this team, because the time goes by fast and you don't want to waste it. So I hope that he builds from this and he continues to work hard.
Words of wisdom from the head coach.
Thank you, and safe travels home.
Okay, thank you guys. Take care.
Thank you.
All right, and there is Frank Klopas's post game. I hope that all the audio came in. We try to do that with some of my recording software here, and hopefully it works out. And hopefully you enjoy my little kind of Mystery Science Theater 3000 takes on what's going on with some of these post game things. The one last thing I want to say before we take our water break here, and it's kind of a funny story, and it does have to do with Frank Klopas, because we're all Greek Orthodox here, right? I get on, it's Sunday, it's like 11:30, 11:45. I get a text from a good friend of mine, also named Nick, and he says, who I've brought to the Fire game with me, who I've run into at Fire games before, so he's a fan. And I get a text from him, and he's like, hey, I was just at church with Frank Klopas today. So Frank ended up going to the same church as Nick did, and he said he went up and he talked to him, and he said, oh, if you're in church, shouldn't Koutsias be here too? Ha ha ha, kind of a thing. But he said they got to talking, and Frank told him that he doesn't think that he will be back next year. And my first reaction to that was, yeah, I don't think anyone thinks he's going to be back again next year or should be back again next year. But the fact that Frank actually said it to him maybe gives that story a little bit more legs. So again, this is my Greek telephone reporting here that, my sources who were in church with Frank Klopas say that Klopas doesn't think he'll be back next season for whatever it is that is worth. All right, and now let's take our water break here on Feed the Fire. As we do, our water break is sponsored by Skira Icelandic Spring Water. Icelandic for clear, Skira water comes from a spring in a government-protected nature preserve in Iceland with naturally low mineral content. This isn't your average water, clearly. Pun intended, it's one of the best. Skira Icelandic Spring Water is available at your local 7-Eleven. Please go out and support our founding sponsor. Skira was the first group that came to us and said, we love what you're doing. We want to give you a little something to keep it going and help you get started with the show. So thank you to Skira. Please support our show by supporting them. And as always at this time in our show, I'm going to flip it over to our special guest. Featured guest is what I will call him. He is special. He is featured. He is none other than John Donovan. John, take it away.
Nick, John Donovan here talking about the MLS and the Chicago Fire. Nick, soccer or football is a really funny game. When you look at American football or baseball or just a number of sports, they stop and start. Football is on the game for about 10 seconds and then they take a break. Soccer, you've got to have your mind in the game the full 90 minutes. The Fire lost today because some key players, even the captain of the squad, Jimenez, lost the person he was supposed to be guarding. I mean, that was such a letdown in the game that it was the first point of the game. I think it was 6 minutes into the game. Wait a minute, I'm wrong on that. Yeah, it was 6:31 in the game where Souquet, which has been playing fairly well, was just outrun. He's not the youngest guy, and I think the league knows that they've got a guy that just really doesn't have the speed to come up with some of these wings. He just couldn't keep up with the left wing on Miami, and he ran right by him on the touchline, brought it back to Rojas. Bing, a score. Absolutely, Jimenez is just not thinking about the game. You lose concentration in soccer. Teams lose. It's just a shame that this has happened to the Fire. You think back to the Columbus game, the new center fullback from Norway, he blew it. I mean, literally just thought the game was over with, I think, and Columbus came in and scored in the last second. And then this game, Souquet just got beaten on the ball way deep by the goal. It was brought back to a young guy by the name of Rojas, and it was a score. Literally, Jimenez, the $1.4 million TAM player, lost his mark and literally didn't seem like he really knew that he had lost the mark. Acosta came over to him after the goal and seemed to be quite angry at him. So another game just lost by lack of concentration. The game started, I thought I agreed with the lineup. It seems like Klopas, every lineup, he has some changes. He went with a 4-4-2, which I think is the proper lineup for this squad. He had, they're not getting a lot of play out of the forwards. When you think we haven't seen many games with more than 2 goals. Although Kutsias, he can score. We've got a lot of guys. Kuipers can score. We've got a lot of guys on the team that should be scoring. But we don't have the midfield that's feeding these guys. It's that center midfielder, which I have talked about before, that the Fire lack. When you have Acosta in the middle and Herber's around there, they don't have that clearly defined midfielder that makes the forward line. So always a confusing game when Klopas is the guy that's in charge. The second goal, guys, was Brady came out and he should have fisted the ball away. But, human reactions, closing your eyes, breathing, everything is a natural instinct. And it looked like Brady was protecting his stomach when he came out rather than having his hands up for a fist ball that would have cleared it. He went into sort of a protective position. The ball got played back to the Miami player, and bingo, scored 2-1. And it was about 4 or 5 minutes after the Fire had evened the game. And talking about evening the game, Chijos went in and really had a beautiful score. He took it, you'll see a lot of guys trying to feed the ball off, a give and go. This one was straight ahead. He just used his nice speed. He's a lefty, a natural lefty, and it was just laces through the ball, and the goaltender did not have a chance. I mean, it was right by his feet, but it was in the corner. It was a really nice shot. So, again, the Fire lose 2-1. It's interesting when you see the standings. New England is other than, but only 2 points off. The Fire have 25 points, and you look up to that 9th position, and the Fire are only 1 game out of that 9th position, and they're, they're playing in the League's Cup next, so it doesn't go against their standings. But, you think back, all the money spent, all the optimism about this coming year, and it's just about dead right now. Last place, we're not that far out, but we're seeing probably our best center fullback in Almsberg, who has always had a tough time getting recognition from the Fire, playing well, really playing well, and the defense seemed to play well around him. But he went down after a head ball, and his reaction literally looked like an ACL, which would mean the end of his season. And this is the second time it's happened to this guy, where he played well. He was a substitute for Tehran about 2 years ago, and they couldn't get him off the field. He was playing so well. Hurt his ankle. Tehran came back, and he's been fighting for his spot since that injury. Now it looks like ACL is, Lord, it's 8-9 months before you can be playing again. So if I'm right about that, it's going to Pineda, or I think the gentleman's name is Salquist, that did not play well for the Fire in that middle position. I had thought that the best lineup was Omsberg in the middle, and then Pineda as a defensive midfielder. He's really a good player. He had some nice moves, other than that one score where I don't think he heard Brady trying to call him off. So, what do we look at with the Fire? I'm just shocked that Klopas is still there. How much does, this town is a great town for sports, Chicago. And, we just, when the opportunities are there, like this summer, a lot of money spent, as I said, a lot of optimism, and we're getting nothing. And it just, when you look at Charlotte, they brought in a good coach, no DPs, or like a half a DP, and they're in sixth place. They're in the money, and they're winning. They're a dangerous squad. But that's a real talented coach, and he's brought everything out of those marginal Charlotte players. Then you go to our team, which has loads of dough out on the squad itself. Our DPs, one DP is playing well, the other DP is off in Switzerland. I don't think we'll see him back in Chicago. He was such a poor representative of the squad. He was arguing with his teammates, arguing with the referee, and really never, other than penalty shots, just didn't seem to form on this team. Admittedly, he was playing a position that he's never played before in his life, but that's the Chicago Fire for you guys. What do we say? I hope and pray that they don't fill these DP spots right now and wait until next year. I don't trust this staff or this scouting group to come up with decent players. You look at that Miami squad. Okay, they do have that Barcelona boost in there with those three players. But, they even play the draft. Alfonso was, I think, at Virginia last year. How many players have we drafted in the last couple of years that are actually playing on the squad? Now, we've got Gutierrez was a homegrown. Pineda graduated from college and is a homegrown. But we don't have anybody from our drafting work, which means the team doesn't really look at the U.S. players that are coming out of college. And they've got to do that to compete in this league. You have your high-priced DPs, and then you've got your strength of the squad is the non-DPs. And we just don't have that right now. Our midfield, in my opinion, is not playing well at all. No assists from the midfield. Jimenez gave away a goal. He was the captain. He's been the captain for 4 games in a row, and he's not a good representative of the squad, guys. I would have Kuipers or somebody else like that as captain. At least their performance on the field is up for it. Jimenez's passing is weak. Sometimes I wonder if he's looking up and does have a player in mind when he's passing. So, Nick, I don't know what to say about this season. We're second from last. New England is below us, and you got to believe New England is going to go through a growth spurt here sometime. I would imagine that they're going to sign a DP in there that sometime soon that will strengthen their squad for the end. If they make it, it's not that far out. The breakoff point for the playoffs is 3 points from where the Fire are at today. So, I'm sure that Philadelphia probably will work away into that playoffs. Toronto's there now, and you just got to wonder about that squad. So, Nick, thanks a lot. I hope you receive this short piece of work. Have a good day. Hi, Mike.
Thank you, John. We appreciate your contributions each and every week. I know this was a tough one to talk about, and I'm glad to have all your thoughts on it out there for everyone to hear. Now, as we do in the second half of our show, want to take a look around some of the headlines within the club and around MLS. First of all, a headline that got a lot of criticism. The Chicago Fire have announced their fan-first credit guarantee for their home match against Inter Miami on August 31st. And this is absolutely in response to the potential of Messi not playing, of how the league and the club have marketed tickets, season tickets, marketed coming to the game, and all these sort of things based on Messi, and the very, very real possibility that he will not be in Chicago both last year and this year, and especially in response to 60,500 fans, a sellout crowd coming for Messi and not seeing Messi. So they have this beautiful introduction about how great it is. Nothing more thrilling than witnessing a sold-out crowd for a marquee matchup. Remember last year, even without Messi, he draws a crowd and all this stuff. So they're really trying to, recognize the hype, but also recognize that, sorry, he didn't actually show up. So here's the deal that they're offering, the Fan First Credit Guarantee. For tickets purchased from July 19th until August 31st, should Messi be unavailable, single match buyers will get $250 off 2 or more new 2025 season ticket memberships, or $100 off 2 or more single match tickets for 2025 against Miami. So you get $250 off of season tickets for next year, or $100 off tickets for next year's Miami game. If you already had your single match tickets for the Miami game, you get 2 free tickets to the Fan Appreciation Night, which is the October 19th match against Nashville. And let's see if it says anything about season ticket members. No, it just kind of talks about all the extra stuff that you can get by becoming a season ticket member. So I also think season ticket members are part of that 2 extra free tickets to the Nashville game, which that'd be great for me. That'd be fun to see Nashville. We actually went down and saw Nashville play. We saw their home opener a couple years ago, the 2022 home opener with NYC at Nashville. And we didn't get to see Mukhtar on the pitch, but we did get to see him warming up, hanging on the sidelines. Got to see a Zimmerman goal. We got to see Dax McCarty take the field. So we had a lot of fun on that opener. It was the debut of the Johnny Cash all black jersey that Nashville debuted. Cash's son did the pregame guitar riff. A lot of fun down there. So as a result of it, because that was my youngest son's second MLS game, but really kind of the first trip that he remembered. And so he is like a soft spot for Nashville SC. He's a big fan of Nashville, just based on that game and the fun we had there. So I know he's going to be excited to go see this one. If we get a couple more tickets, we'll take a few more friends. It'll be great. So that is the Chicago Fire Fan First Credit Guarantee for the Inter Miami game. Kudos to the club for doing it. They don't have to do it. A lot of clubs aren't doing it. A lot of clubs and teams and organizations in pro sports are like, too bad, you're not guaranteed. In fact, the NBA is having to change the rules because teams are resting star players, and fans are pissed when those star players get rested when they come to their city. And from a Chicago perspective, when your team's not that good, that's usually when the stars get rested. So this is something I'm glad the club is taking the initiative and responding to the fans wanting it. And for people who are just ripping on the club, I even put something, on Facebook. I added a comment that said kudos to the club for keeping the fans first in response to their Facebook announcement on this. And I got half a dozen people who just put laughing emojis like, ha ha ha. Like, how can you think that? And that's sad that that's the reaction. Like, as fans, enjoy the match. Enjoy what they're doing for you. These are the extra things that organizations are doing. I'm not trying to oversell you here on the Fire. Like, you're going to be mad, you're going to be mad. I'm not going to tell you how to fan. But, like, why get so upset about it, right? Here's the perk. Here's the thing. I actually had someone, getting on me like, oh, these fan giveaways and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, it's free, dude. Oh, they were complaining about the season ticket member gift, which was the custom pin set and the season ticket member annual scarf. And there were 4 pins of the most popular Fire jerseys in the club history, and you only got 1 per account, and people are like, this is garbage, this is something you just get at a little gift shop someplace, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, guys, focus on the party, not the goodie bag. Like, if you were buying season tickets, you're getting all the games. You're already getting the parking if you're buying it too. You're getting a lot of bonuses. Like, the fact that the club is going out of their way to do these extra things. Heck, Miami doesn't have season ticket gifts. They know you're there to see Messi. They know you're there to maybe catch a glimpse of Beckham or some other celebrity. Like, they're not giving season ticket holder gifts. Like, I was even talking about that with Battered Herons off the air. And you can go onto my social media, either Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, whatever, and go find. I actually have a slideshow of all the pictures of the season ticket membership give this year. But like, yeah, this is like the extra stuff. Like, you don't buy season tickets for your club because you want the annual season ticket member gift or the cowboy hat on country night, right? Like, that's not why you're buying season tickets. So don't be mad that you're not getting these little extra things the way you want them, or that you're going to criticize them. All right, I'm getting off my soapbox now, everybody. The other big announcement from the Fire, Chicago Fire announced Endeavor Health as the naming rights partner of their new performance center. So Chicago Fire and Endeavor Health announced an expanded multi-year partnership agreement, with Endeavor Health becoming the naming rights partner of the Fire's new $100 million training facility. They are sinking some money into this, and as I tweeted out, facilities attract talent. So hopefully this will get some people to come to the Midwest versus the West Coast. Some talented players there. So this will be in the Roosevelt Square neighborhood on Chicago's near west side. The Endeavor Health Performance Center will be a best-in-class facility that will allow the club to attract and train top talent, like I just said. Let's see what other things. Here we go. Quote from Dave Baldwin here. Endeavor Health has been an incredible partner to our club, and we couldn't be more excited to further our relationship and have our new state-of-the-art facility bear their name. The Endeavor Health Performance Center will be the preeminent facility in Major League Soccer, and with Endeavor Health by our side, we'll be able to attract and train top talent with the highest performance standards, while also providing much-needed resources to our neighbors on the near west side. So that's a very cool thing, and the chief physician, executive, and director of the Orthopedic and Spine Institute, Dr. Jason Coe, said, "We're looking forward to an exciting partnership with the Fire to provide excellent medical and orthopedic care to the team at a facility that will support their efforts." So this is a great partnership. This is a cool facility. Like, go look at some of the renderings that are online. Very, very cool. Like I said, you need to have the right facilities to attract talent. When I was talking with the guys from the Battered Herons show, the Miami show, they said, why can't Chicago attract the talent? Not just in soccer, but in any sport. It's a premier city in the United States. Why don't players want to go there? We all know the weather, but now that they're building bigger and better facilities, this is something that could really be a pull. All right, I alluded to this next headline in the opening. Caleb Wiley of Atlanta United and the U.S. men's national team now, not just the youth national team, he has been transferred to Chelsea. Yes, Premier League side Chelsea. The club announced today, Monday the 22nd. It is reported they're getting an $11 million fee. He also reportedly will be loaned to Ligue 1, France side Strasbourg, who also share an owner with Chelsea. So Caleb Wiley transferred to Chelsea. Big move for him, and big move for this club. So you get, say, $11 million for Chelsea. You got Giacomakis transferred to Cruz Azul. You got Thiago Almada transferred to Eagle Soccer or Eagle Football Group or Eagle Football Ownership. I forget their exact name. But they own Crystal Palace in the Premier League and Botafogo in Brazil. So he's going to go to Botafogo and then make the jump to Crystal Palace. So with all of this money, they're looking at over $40 million in transfer fees this season alone. They're going to make some moves, and this is exactly how the Fire should operate. The Fire have this money from the transfers of Slanina and Duran. Yeah, they blew a lot of it on Shaqiri and Kuipers, but if they can maybe make another move, maybe they do end up transferring Brady and one or two other players and get a few bucks collectively. We'll see if they can bring in some DPs like Atlanta is planning to do. The other cool thing out of this Caleb Wiley transfer story, there's some really cool pictures of him going around from 2018 when he was an academy player and a ball boy, and then they put it side by side of him, walking out of the tunnel as a starter for the club now 6 years later. So a really cool story for him. Congrats to him and his career. As far as other transfers that are going around, LAFC have transferred defender Mamadou Fall to FC Barcelona. And wow, he spent the last season on loan at Barca and featured, so the transfer is complete. Nashville has signed a new midfielder, Patrick Yazbek. Dallas has acquired midfielder Manuel Kafumana, Atlanta United transferred Caleb Wiley, as we talked about. DC United signed a new midfielder, Boris Inau, from Cameroon. And Portland Timbers have signed a defender, Finn Sermon. And these are all moves from outside the league. Like, I don't even recognize these logos. I don't want to have to go through and click into every story right here. Also, here's kind of an in-league news. Orlando City have signed Dagger Don Thorhalsen to a contract extension. So let me see if there's any other kind of big names here as far as the transfer tracker goes. Rapids have transferred keeper Marko Ilic to Red Star Belgrade. And here's kind of a big one if you're an MLS junkie. DC United captain Steve Birnbaum has retired. So that is the big news from a big MLS name. The 33-year-old defender has announced his retirement after 11 seasons with DC United. 254 regular season appearances. He was the number 2 overall draft in the 2014 MLS Super Draft. Club legend, MLS legend. 3rd most featured player in DC United history, behind Jaime Moreno and keeper Bill Hamid. 2016 All-Star, 2014 MLS Rookie of the Year finalist. What a career for Steve Birnbaum, and like I said, you MLS junkies, I know you're going to miss seeing him out on the pitch week in and week out. Reminder as we close out here, All-Star Skills Challenge tomorrow, July 23rd, All-Star Game July 24th, and the Fire's next matchup, a Leagues Cup opener at Sporting Kansas City, July 28th. And with that, I wish you all a good evening, and let's go Fire.